Welcome to Full Speed Ahead. I'm Craig Fuller here with John Lyboldt, the president of the Truckload Carriers Association. John, welcome.
It's great to be here, Craig.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Well, excited. Welcome to Freight Alley. We're here talking with the TCA and the TPP program. For those that aren't aware of TPP, what is TPP?
Let me go back to the mid 2000s, and at TCA we had a benchmarking program, and we had a number of groups. What we really wanted to do was we wanted to amp it up, so we did, and it took about 9 months to redesign, and decided there were certain key factors. One is, one size doesn't fit all. So what we did is we developed 4 different ways to get involved, whether it's composite only, whether it's getting into a group, and so on and so forth. So the program's growing very quickly, largely due to our relationship. FreightWaves, when you contacted us in November, December last year, we put a contract together and then furthered the relationship this past May. So I think the FreightWaves data has helped us a great deal. Our members need as much data as they can get. So TPP is growing, which is now the Truckload profitability program, instead of calling it benchmarking, because there's a lot of different parts of the program that we need to talk about.
Yeah, so TCA is an organization that represents the truckload industry. And
Correct.
Really, truckload is the much larger part of the trucking industry. And you guys are the representation organization of the industry. You have carriers of all sizes that are involved in it, but they're really truckload.
Yeah.
You think about what it is that you guys do. Can you describe what you do for these members?
Absolutely. We're a trade association. Been around for 82 years. The trade association has a number of different services and products to help members better their business endeavors. So what we do basically is we're helping them build their assets, their balance sheets. We're helping them build their profitability. We're helping them retain their skilled workforce. And the last one is government affairs, the voice of truckload. So I got to tell you a story about this last one. In April of 2016, Dave Heller, who's our Vice President of Government Affairs, and I went up the Hill. They hadn't been on the Hill in years. And presented our cards, and the person says, "Truckload? What's truckload?" And I said, you gotta be kidding me. Truckload's the largest segment of trucking. And I said that in the back of my mind, and I said, listen, we've been the silent majority for too long. I said, starting today, that ends. And we explained, 78% of all freight, the employment numbers, number one employer in 29 states. 3.5 million drivers, 7.5 million employees. When you start looking at what we do and what we mean to the economy, it is an incredible story. So that's basically how government affairs started. And, now what we've done is they're calling us, asking for data. Because I'm not an emotional type approach on legislation. If I've got the data and I can back it up with fact, we're going to win at the end of the day. We're not going to win if we go in there and just give them emotion.
Yeah, you guys historically had at some point worked with other associations to represent you in Washington. Did you feel that you weren't getting enough direct attention, or is this more to take and create your own initiatives?
No, I think that there is a segment of trucking, which is us, Truckload, that needs representation. 99% of the time we're on the same page with other associations. So we work well together in regards to the other 99. Give you a point in fact. If you have 85 people in the House of Representatives that changes every election, you've got to go back and you got to re-educate the 85 because they're new, they don't know. So if we have all the trucking associations talking about trucking, it just gives you a multiple opportunity to voice what we do. We go in and talk about truckload. So we not only talk about industry, but we really focus in on the truck side.
And that's different than the ATA, which represents the broader transportation and trucking market.
In many cases, we're in the same appointment.
Yeah.
We work together on things. So, there's a place where we have to voice a policy difference. And we're very glad to do that because our membership's saying, hey, here's where we are, and this is what we want. We have to go in and we have to.
So what are some of the areas where you have differing views than the ATA?
It depends on, like, size and weight has been something that's come up over many, many years, and everyone knows the size and weight story. You're going to get a kick out of this. I took the board minutes from 1957 and read them forward, just to get a feel early on in my career here, and size and weight, size and weight, size and weight, size and weight. I said, finally, I said to the board, I said, when are we going to get on with it? We have so many things to talk about.
It's the same thing.
Let's
right?
not do this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no movement on it. We're glad about that, but that's one case.
Yeah.
We have bigger issues. We talk about infrastructure. I mean, I had dinner with Speaker McConnell. Actually, Secretary Lane Chow was there, and there was about 8 of us, different industries, and we're talking about things. And he says, I've known Leader McConnell for some years, and he says, John, what's on your mind? And I said, Leader, what's on my mind is infrastructure. And he says, wow. He says, that's a big hurdle. And he says, how are you going to pay for it? I said, fuel tax. How many industries come in and talk to you and say, we're willing to pay that 20 cents a mile more in fuel per gallon? And he says, there's not an industry that I know that comes in and says they want to pay more. It's usually less.
Now, why would you guys want to offer more money?
Because if you take a look at the cost of the damage, the lost productivity, congestion, you all are doing a fabulous job here at FreightWaves on congestion and detention times. You take a look at all the reasons why people can't drive, why those drivers can't drive. Infrastructure is a huge contributor to that.
So you want Congress to approve a gas tax or fuel tax?
A fuel tax.
To increase the cost of fuel, and then in return they put that into a fund to fund infrastructure, highways, and
absolutely. And if you think of it this way, there's like 9 different ideas about how to fund the highway, highway tax and highway fund, I should say. And if you think about it, at the pump, when you're pumping it in, you're losing about 1.5 cents per gallon to administration because it's so efficient. Other methods, we're hearing 18%.
Tolls,
all kinds of stuff. I mean.
But are you against tolls?
Absolutely against it.
And why is that?
We don't think that we should be segregated. We share a road with general public. We pay our taxes. We feel that we need to be on those highways, not off to some segregated area, because we know exactly what's going to happen. We don't think it's a fair, balanced system, and the fuel tax will take care of it so we can all move forward.
Do you ever worry, because I've heard the counter of the fuel tax is, every time Congress creates a tax, then they find, they've done it with Social Security. It's like, this money's set aside for savings, but in reality, they start to appropriate it in other things. Do you worry about that happening?
We do. When you look at
how do you ensure that if it's a fuel tax, how do you ensure that money goes directly into infrastructure?
Highway fund, bridges, our roads, believe it or not, broadband, all these things that are going to be required for us down the road. But it's all included in that package, and it's segregated those items.
And you said broadband, is that for autonomous or enabled vehicles?
It is, not so much the autonomous, but it's going to give us a network, People would think about infrastructure as just roads and bridges, but you got to think about broadband. I was down, you aren't going to believe this, I was down in Laredo, which is one of our largest inland ports in Laredo, Texas. And we're meeting with the person who absolutely manages that whole operation and a number of his people, and asked a question. I said, there's got to be something in common that we have. So what is your biggest challenge? Because I'm thinking he might come up with something like our challenges. He looked at me and says, our biggest challenge is broadband. And I looked at him and I said, broadband? Are you? He says, yeah. We have so many new technologies for protecting this country through Customs Patrol that we can't take all those technologies and put them on one screen. It actually closes down the whole system. So we've got to look at a number of different screens. And the technology they have for nuclear, for detection of human, for drug trafficking. I mean, Craig, it is incredible. So broadband I could see as being, okay, if you guys can't all see it and you've got to have a number of monitors and more people, it's not efficient.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it is having ubiquitous wireless access. We're a connected society.
Yes.
These trucks are driving across, Montana. There are places in East Tennessee. My house, I lose cell phone coverage at my own house because they live on a mountain, and there's all these mountains there. This is 15 minutes outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee.
It's incredible.
And it is tough, but we're so dependent as society, and these trucks are far more connected than they've ever been. Whether it's transparency and visibility systems, shippers require that.
Right.
Safety technology that's there. And then the evolution of just the smart vehicle really requires the infrastructure.
Yeah, and so I think when you start to look at, when you start to look at infrastructure, we know this is going to be a 10 to 15 year deal, and it'll never end. It'll keep on going. That's why since 1964, Congress hasn't had, the real desire to increase taxes for, especially fuel tax. And look where we are. If they had done a CPI or a 3% or whatever it was, we'd be fine. We wouldn't be 29th in the world for infrastructure.
Yeah, and it strikes me that everybody benefits when you have, like the trucking industry is saying, we'll take a fuel tax. Like if you can't put it on consumers, give us a fuel tax. And in return, communities benefit. Highways, airports, ports, broadband infrastructure. I mean, the economic, Chattanooga talks about being the gig city, because we have believe it or not, and if you knew this before today, we have the fastest internet in Chattanooga, Tennessee than anywhere else in the country. You can get 10 gig to your house. For $160 a month, you can get 10 gig to your house. For $40 a month, you can get a gig. It is super fast. And it's actually driven a lot of economic development because companies like FreightWaves thrive on really fast internet. And it strikes me that if the trucking industry is coming and saying, we are willing to be taxed in a fuel tax, and all these communities benefit, especially the communities that may not have, that may be more remote because trucking depends on it, with like broadband access and stuff, strikes me as a pretty nice return on investment.
It is a phenomenal return, because if you look at the lost time alone, not just the maintenance of the equipment or the safety perspectives. I mean, more lives are lost in work zones. We got to clean these highways up. We've got to get them in good repair. My fear is, and I've had conversation with Congress on this, and also regulatory agencies, is that we're going to start losing lives. And how many lives will it take for someone to say, you know what, this is crazy? We've got to make a decision.
Highways
here.
Collapsing. I mean, there was a highway here in Chattanooga that collapsed. Atlanta had one a few years ago.
They did.
That collapsed, basically shut down the entire city.
Yeah, and those are things that are reality. But safety is number one. You know that. Everybody knows our safety is number one, because we're sharing the highway. It's our office, and we have to respect the fact that there's citizens and cars on that road. So all the new safety equipment we embrace big time. The one thing that I don't see happening is there's some bandwidth between the ECMs on trucks and cars where we could have the cars and trucks talking to one another. This is not rocket scientist work, but we've got to get the auto industry and the truck industry, and there's been a lot of movement. But think of it this way, if there would be, it's almost like predictive analytics. It's like, okay, I'm going down a road at such and such a speed, and I've got cars three strong on my left side, and I got 2 strong on my right side. Being able to know where those cars are and having those cars know where we are can really change up the way that things can happen as far as accidents. And to us, the investment in that little technology with cars and trucks talking could be a big deal.
Now, you have an automotive background.
I do.
You were chairman, president of the NADA?
I was actually the senior vice president.
Senior vice president of the NADA. Right. So that's the National Auto Dealers Association.
Correct.
It strikes me you would have a perspective. Why aren't the auto manufacturers and the truck manufacturers talking?
Well, that's changed, but you got to remember, when you start to look at marketplace competition, each individual OEM wants to try to get a leg up over the next one for technology. So we've seen tremendous changes within the technology of a car. We also represented the heavy-duty truck dealers. So, my men and women who are members of TCA are buying from the dealers that I worked with for those 30 years. What I found was that, it's really talking about and communicating what that future looks like and getting everybody on the same page. It's not like they're unwilling.
Just wanting to collaborate.
It's just, let's get the collaboration going. Let's make this a big deal.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to lives, I mean, look at the airbag situation we had, where the airbags were they had defaults, and I don't know how
was
many.
it Toyota that had the problem?
It was,
auto
it was a
deployment.
supplier.
Okay.
And I can't remember.
TRW maybe?
No, it wasn't TRS Tekla or something.
Okay.
Well, you see the importance of the safety aspect
Yeah.
is that they were held to a pretty high standard, and they were a real problem. So I think the safety aspects of technology have been great. We're collaborating. We want to see it happen.
I got to ask you one thing that is on the top of mind of nearly anybody in the freight industry is nuclear verdicts.
Yes.
I mean, these are, there is profitability is a big topic this week here at the TPP Summit. Obviously, the market is not as strong as it's been in the past. Companies, these nuclear verdicts come out of nowhere, and really, it takes a trial attorney painting a really bad picture. And look, everybody, myself included, every driver on the road has had a bad experience with a truck driver. It has happened, and then it's true. It does happen. The trial attorneys take that one experience and paint the entire industry under this brush.
They do.
And it puts these companies at risk. There are companies filing bankruptcies because of nuclear verdicts.
Absolutely.
How do we get a handle on that?
Well, you've got a solution in tort reform. But I can tell you, for years I've been talking about tort reform. That's a big undertaking. I think that we need to come together as an industry. Insurance, if you just think about those nuclear verdicts, the insurance industry, everyone pays for that. Just not that one trucking company, right? So the insurance industry is very much affected by nuclear verdicts. It's a ripple effect.
Well, they've doubled. I think just basic premiums will expected to double this year in some cases, and then the
30%.
Catastrophic. I've heard as much as 10x in some of these catastrophic coverages.
And 30% in certain cases. So, tort reform has been a big conversation in the U.S. for a long time. We represent Canada and Mexico as well. So, the United States, Canada, Mexico agreement, which it's a no-brainer.
You know the UMSCA? I can't even say.
It's USCA.
Yeah.
So, if you take a look at that agreement, it's good for it. It's to the point where it should be signed.
Is it going to get passed this year?
The environment right now in Washington is no one wants to see anything happen that's good for Republicans. So the likelihood of that passing, infrastructure, everything's kind of put on hold.
Is Washington gridlock, though, necessarily a bad thing? I mean, you can't get infrastructure done, but let's take that. I mean, they're not passing law as regulations are slow. Like, there's not a lot of new regulations.
Let me say it this way. A good thing or a bad thing, I think I would rather see a country where we had more bipartisan work done. I think that there's so many bills that are left on the table at the end of the year that aren't haven't even been looked at, that we are numb. And when you get to the point where you're not effective and you're not efficient, I mean, who gets hurt?
Yeah,
us.
It is interesting when I think about the autonomous vehicles, and people are like, when are autonomous vehicles coming in? And I'm like, look, this requires local, state, and federal laws for point-to-point autonomous to agree, and we can't even get our federal government to agree on anything, because you got to actually change laws to allow for autonomous vehicles, and you're talking about an industry where the number one employer in that state is trucking. And so I don't think that we're going to see autonomous vehicles on the road ubiquitously. Maybe in some select cases, maybe on highways, but we're not going to see it nationally for many, many years.
I'm of the same opinion, and I think there's use for autonomous. We're more of a driver assist policy at TCA. We feel that because you've got 80,000 pounds and you've got such a big vehicle and you've got companies that own thousands of these trucks, and they're all connected, you know, you got some cybersecurity concerns, but I think the more importantly is that, you know, having someone in that truck that could do something if something happened with the autonomous side could be good. We believe in technology, there's no question about that, and autonomous eventually will get here, but I think that in our lifetimes, with the infrastructure the way we have it, we can't even build a bridge.
Yeah, it is. There are a lot of issues out there. Congratulations on the work that you guys are doing at the TCA. Big fans here at FreightWaves of the progress of the TCA and what they're doing. Really congratulations on the successes, and good luck for closing out the year. Look forward to seeing what's ahead for 2020. Don't forget that you can watch this and every edition of FreightWaves TV on Apple TV, Roku, all other digital streaming platforms. Get the app if you have an Apple phone or an Android. It is a great way to pay attention to what's happening in the freight industry.